Middle child, no one cares about the middle child, never ever gonna change.
Lisa, can I talk to you?
Here it is, a quick check-in every 2 years, just like clockwork.
Ever heard of the middle child syndrome, that belief where middle children don't get as much love as the others? Well, this is the Samsung Galaxy S22 Plus, the middle child between a more affordable base and a more powerful Ultra. But frankly, the phone, I think, is already more than enough for at least most people. See, it is a no-brainer to spend less money for the S22, even if not much, and sure, it's understandable for Samsung to give more spotlight to the Ultra, as that's their claim to fame. But it's interesting to see that there are quite a few differences between them. The Plus is both larger and more capable than the regular variant, and it's almost as if the Ultra is that stepbrother that just moved in from the Noteland. And sure, it looks a lot like its predecessor, but it turns out that in this case in particular, looks can be very deceiving. I'm Jaime Rivera with Pocketnow, and let's dive into our full review. Maybe the first thing that I noticed when I unboxed this phone is that even if it looks like the S21, it definitely does not feel like one. Sure, Samsung kept the contour approach to the camera plus the two-tone colors, but the rest is pretty different. The back is now flat, resembling more of an iPhone's approach, even if the curved borders do a better job at ergonomics. It's actually a chunkier phone, and I'm perfectly okay with it. Materials are now Gorilla Glass Victus Plus on the front and the back, and this Armor aluminum even includes environment-friendly materials from purpose fishing nets, all leading to a premium feel when combining them all. Now, I think that one of the things that struck me the most is this display. While it may not have all the variability of the Ultra, it's still a pretty gorgeous sight to see. At 6.6 inches diagonal, it's just marginally shorter than the Ultra, and yet as flat as it gets, which I feel makes it more elegant. This dynamic AMOLED 2X is also brighter now at almost 1750 nits in peak, a vision booster feature that adjusts accordingly, and the contrast ratio has doubled. Have a look for yourself at a store to see what I mean. I've really enjoyed using this phone matched with its dual firing speakers. And then the insides are probably where you'll find most differences with the regular model. We had the chance to test the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 variant, which could vary based on your region, I know. RAM and storage are good for the price, and along with the base, this model also supports all flavors of 5G. Now what changes is that the Plus has the newer Wi-Fi 6E, it supports ultra-wideband, has faster wired charging, and the obviously larger battery. It's pretty close to the Ultra in almost every spec if you do the math actually. All those numbers aside though, can I just say that regardless of how subtle the changes are to One UI 4.1, Android 12 feels pretty good on this phone. I'm having a hard time to pinpoint what it is, but I think it's that Samsung just finally ditched the excessive animations. Folders open quicker, apps launch faster, everything just feels more cohesive. I've never been shy to admit how much I hate the wasted space of material used, so it's odd to actually consider this denser grid as a breath of fresh air. All of Android's privacy elements are here, and sure, you can set the tone of your user interface based on your wallpaper as well, which is something that Samsung has been doing for years, along with the company's own touch and its side menus and optional applications. If you weren't a fan of One UI, this might actually be the first time that I recommend you give it another chance. Now, in day-to-day experience, things didn't really start amazing, but they've been getting better over time. See, this is why I like to take my time with reviews, as even as far as the first week in, this phone was still learning my battery usage patterns. As such, it didn't really start off well, but it's gotten dramatically better over the past 3 days. Same thing with its 5G, which didn't start off being great, but is now probably more reliable than other phones I've tested. Point is, if it gets a bit warm when you unbox it or for the first 2 to 3 days, I'd give it an extra day or two for it to level out. And if you thought that phone calls wouldn't be so good given just how small the earpiece is in this design, my experience has been pretty good so far. And then there's this case with the cameras. Sure, the Ultra has an extra telephoto and far more numbers than the Plus, but once you look into the resulting shots, I think there's really not much to envy. Usually by now I start with the whole during the day argument, but I'm not sure what Samsung is doing here, but this phone is doing a better job than others in some things. I see colors to be crazy well represented, all while not overdoing anything. This new sensor also provides some crazy shallow depth of field and probably some of the best detail that I've seen. In short, I'm very impressed. Even if you were to go ultra wide, don't worry about the distortion that you see on the viewfinder. There is lens correction in the final product, and I feel confident using this phone even up to 3x in lower light scenarios. That being said, not much low light. While it does a better job than most of the dynamic range and picking up detail from the sky, the results are more often soft than sharp. There's a minor delay in the shutter, which I assume is to capture more light. And listen, I do see it in the results, but it seems that Samsung hasn't struck the right balance between killing the over-sharpening that it did in the past to achieve them. And sure, it is a step in the right direction, but that might need an extra software update. Even if you were to go on selfies and portraits, I do like the results so long as they remain on the phone, but once you bring them back to the computer, this is where they seem softer in dimmer scenarios, obviously even using night mode. That said, video is interesting. I can see improvements in the codec with some elements like color and dynamic range, but certain elements still look a bit washed out when light is too harsh. Stabilization is Samsung quality good, and I can even see that in the selfie shooter, but sadly I still do notice that jello effect when you walk given the rolling shutter that seems to have not been addressed, and it's probably the reason why I don't even look into the 8K video or anything. To conclude, I think that anyone considering the Galaxy S22 Plus as the middle child has it kind of wrong. Sure, it could be in the shadow of the Ultra, but that's simply because the Ultra exists. If you were to separate this phone from the Galaxy family and have it compete against other phones, well, now you're talking about a phone that's probably far better suited to compete against an iPhone 13 Pro Max, for example. Yes, for a bit of context, Samsung's least memorable addition to this lineup is in many ways better than Apple's best iPhone, and pretty much most flagships as well. From the looks to the hardware to the specs to the software experience to some elements of the camera, this phone is as good as a flagship gets, and which is second only to anything Ultra or pretty much anything that currently folds. So listen, if you have the money to grab anything more premium, then hey, I'm not going to be the one to stop you, as all of those alternatives are pretty fantastic, even if ironically most of the good ones are actually also made by Samsung. That said, if you're in the market for a great conventional flagship that honestly does things better than most, have a look at this Galaxy S22 Plus. It is honestly a pretty neat package. Now, let us know if you agree with my thoughts in the comments down below, and while you're at it, follow us on social media and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. You can also follow me on my personal handles to see me try to defend the middle child, because I was the older child and I know what my brothers had to deal with. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. I'm Jaime Rivera, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.